What are we even watching?
Welcome back, my delinquents. Today, we have a new Shoe0nHead video. It's dropped and has a VTuber waifu react channel, whatever you want to call it. I am contracted to watch this, because as you know, every VTuber react channel always reacts to Shoe0nHead. It's the lore. Let's get into it though. The man problem. Why are men moving right? By Shoe0nHead. Let's go! Got the bunny sidekick, we got Shoe0nHead. We're all good to go. Okay, let's see how this goes. Hopefully, nothing's too controversial. Yeah, right.
And happy 1-year anniversary to my male loneliness epidemic video. I'm happy to announce
Wait, holy crap, that was a year ago she did that? Well, I guess I reacted to it pretty late.
that since that video uploaded, the discourse has greatly improved. People all around the world are taking men's issues more seriously, and the gender war has finally come to an end. Just kidding, everything has gotten worse and nobody has learned anything. From the
Ha ha ha, amazing. Yeah, I feel like the thing that people think that the gender wars do is kind of crazy. Like, it's been around a very long time, and it sadly doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
The witches on The View cackling about how men are useless.
Do we need men? Men are useless.
To women online saying they'd rather be stranded in the woods with a bear than a man.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest?
I would have to say the men is useless joke, air quotes from wives, is this like, it's very similar strain to my wife can't do math, or like the similar, what is it, like the angry housewife or angry husband joke. So it's like, ha ha ha, if only I could throw my wife out a window and be happy. It's like in that same vein. It's like such an old person joke.
With a man or bear?
The bear. Bear. It seems that things have gotten more toxic than ever, and the gender divide couldn't be any wider, especially politically.
In 2008, 58% of young people leaned Democratic. 2012, 53%. And in the last two major election years, that percentage held steady at 55%. But in 2023, that number dipped below 50% for the first time since 2005. And you'll notice right here, they've started to lean more Republican. And that's partly because of one specific group: young men.
Young men. I'll try and keep up with this. I have a vague idea of the American political system. Not American, again, pointing that out if anyone's like, I can't believe you're left, right, or hug-a-bug. I'm Australian. I'm not involved in that.
Okay, I know I said I was gonna focus on the gender war and not talk about politics for a while. However, I found a loophole. Politics is talking about gender war. With this election being hailed by
Yes, I know this is like coming in contact, but I would have to say she talks about gender politics, but she does mostly talk from the male perspective, not causation and effect. Like, yeah, this is how men are feeling and everything, but why are men getting pushed more in that direction? Like, she kind of goes into a bit, but she doesn't explain why women are more hateful towards men, or it's coming out more verbally too. At least in my opinion, I feel like she comes very from the male perspective.
the media as the man versus woman election. According to any and all data coming out recently, men all around the world have shifted more right, and women have shifted more left. But women going more left was not the focus of this month's outrage. The outrage, of course, was about men. That's right, we got our yearly, oh no, what is happening to men? Why are they moving to the right freak out? But unlike last year, this freak out isn't solely happening on the internet, no. It's also happening in Washington, D.C.
There are only 46 days until Election Day, and the Harris-Walz campaign is struggling to appeal to a group of voters that could determine the outcome of the election, and that is men.
The Harris campaign is making an aggressive last-minute effort to win over younger male voters.
Am I really gonna make a video criticizing the Democrat Party days before the election? Of course I am. Now before
Of course. I would have to say, the confusion, because I think a lot of young men aren't even sure what they want either. But the problem is, like, when you're trying to appeal to a demographic, you can't alienate another demographic. And with everything so polarizing, you know, men versus women online, it is kind of harder to appeal to men if they've pushed down their throat that the only thing that will appeal to them is things that will punish women. And I feel like that's like a concerning fact. It's all with men and women, like the men versus women, both extremes on sides just want to punish each other, not really solve anything. which is a giant problem.
Before you celebrate or grab your pitchforks, this is not a pro-Trump video. This is a do better video. This is a mommy's not mad, she's disappointed video. Actually, I lied. Mommy's pretty mad. In this video, I am going to be addressing the Democrats' so-called man problem, the recent discourse about men moving right, the last-minute pandering the Democratic Party is doing to get them back, what they could be doing instead, and of course, going over some terrible opinions. Not my opinions. I have never had a bad opinion in my life.
I am curious about her, like, what she thinks they can do to get them back. Because that's what a lot of people avoid, is what you can actually do. They just go, it's like, this is how you're failing. It's like, how do we not fail? Bitch, I'm just pointing things out. I'm not actually, it's like, where's the solutions? We need solutions.
Except that one opinion. We don't talk about that one opinion. In a world where it seems like everything men do and like is toxic, from eating meat to working out to even having a beard. Oh wait, that reminds me. Before we get into this video, let's quickly give a shout out to—
What the fuck kind of articles come out of America? What the fuck? Beards are sexist. Okay. Weird.
Today's video.
Can anything get published
Sponsor,
nowadays, I swear?
Henson Shaving. If you've used a multi-blade razor, you're probably familiar with this story.
I feel like the hate stuff definitely went out the window when, like, journalism just became like everything's a fucking tabloid rag, I swear.
AL13 razor significantly reduces razor burn in comparison to conventional multi-blade razors. So once you own 5 ongoing Henson store oil, so head to and use my special discount Shoe at checkout to get 100 blades for free with your purchase of a Henson razor.
And everyone might be like, no, why are you skipping the ad? I had a majority of people just say to skip the ad, so I'm skipping the ad. Also, you know the rules, and so do I. An ad within the ad. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check the links down below, and leave a comment if you want to talk about this video. Yay!
Skin and your environment will thank you. Big thank you to Henson for sponsoring this video, and thank you for not skipping the ad. You didn't skip the ad, right? And now,
well, this is awkward.
let's get back to the video. If you are a regular viewer to the Shoe0nHead channel, first of all, I'm sorry. But also, you know by now, I have been documenting the internet and society in general's growing and widely accepted hatred of men. This has been happening for a very long time. And if you dare spoke up about it, you were called an incel or a pick-me, depending on your gender. But seemingly, almost out of nowhere, there has been a change of heart.
You know, I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that.
Wow, that's interesting. Mainstream media talking about this.
I would say I agree with that I feel like especially young men are in a crisis of not knowing what direction they should really be going in their life and what to strive for. They have so many people yapping on every side of what they should be doing, and it can be kind of overwhelming. But I think the thing is like that no one wants to talk about the hate on men. I feel like the thing is people don't want to talk about extremes on anything because the hating on women has also been generally accepted, that it's fine to say women are dumb, women are all feminists, blah blah blah. Like a lot of people like are way too comfortable just being so hateful in general, and I would say like definitely men are feeling the brunt of that right now, of like how that is.
I wonder why they care so much now. Democrats fear Harris losing too many male voters to Trump. Oh. Signs have been mounting that, for the first time in recent decades, Democrats may lose—
Whoa, the government only wants to do things when it's bad for them? No, I'm less shocked. It's kind of like we're in a crisis of like non-replenishment, and they still don't care. They still don't want to actually do anything good for the country to make it so people can have more kids. They still just want to complain. It's really annoying.
Lose majority support from young men in 2024. The risk to Democrats is that this is not just a one-time fluke, but an indication of growing trouble with men in coming elections. Democrats can celebrate the support they are getting from young women, but they also need to take the disaffection of young men seriously, engage them directly, and respond to the visions of manhood and masculinity that Donald Trump and JD Vance are offering. Alright, Kamala, you got 2 weeks to reverse anti-male propaganda and resentment fueled by our government, media, and institutions. How you gonna do it? Harris campaign creating space for white dudes. Oh.
Sorry, that's just space for white dudes. That's what men want, space for white dudes. Oscar, I do find like the masculine, I don't know why it's just me. If I think of a masculine guy, I wouldn't say Trump comes to mind in general, but I feel like that is like a core crux of like what the idea of what masculinity is has been shaken up, but there's nothing to replace it. And that's, I feel like, a big thing of why they're lost. In general is like, what is the ideal man? What is the masculine man? How do they fit in? And I feel like a lot of guys want to feel like they have succeeded, and they don't know how to feel that anymore, because what used to be successful just isn't. It isn't the way to live in a modern society. You can't do those things as much or alone, and relying on someone can feel foreign to a lot of people.
That's a great idea. I mean, a little too late, but I'm glad you're finally doing to be honest about role in history. Oh. It's always a space for
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the thing, but it's funny that she thought it was good. It's like, shouldn't it be just more of a guy space than a white guy space? Is the problem only white young men? I thought it was all young men. But I like, we have a lot of like spaces in Oz, they're called men sheds and stuff like that. Usually they're aimed at older gentlemen that are like retired and stuff, because they found that older guys have trouble making friends. And we have them all over Australia, especially like museums and stuff, and like car show places have a lot of men sheds because they like to come in, volunteer, frick around. The one near my granddad actually does blacksmithing, and they teach all the young boys how to blacksmith and stuff. That's a lot of fun. And I think like something just more social is good than just going, here's my white guy space. But I don't know.
For white men to talk about how much they suck.
What made you start this group, White Dudes for Harris? And I suspect some of it has to do with the polling.
Yeah, for far too long, the left has essentially ceded white men to the MAGA right. There's large parts of the left who have gone out of their way to alienate.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest. What the fuck is MAGA? Okay, I see people mention it everywhere. I have no idea what it is. Like, I know I'm gonna regret learning this, but what the hell does that mean? It's something to do with right politics in Republican politics or something in America, but what does it mean?
White men over the last couple of years, and that's understandable in many ways. We decided that we wanted to create space for white men to be a part of electing Vice President Harris.
At the top of the call, White Dudes for Harris organizer Ross Morales Roquito said he wanted to address what he called the elephant in the room, criticism surrounding an event organized for white men given the country's history of racism.
Okay. As in a multicultural country as Australia, it's a bit weird going white guys for whatever, but like, it's just like not something, we just say men. Here, I don't know if we would say white particularly, but I don't know if I've just never seen them here. I don't know. But like, I think it's a good idea, but in my mind, it's better to go in with positivity than negativity, because negativity pushes people away. Positivity draws people in. You have to go in with the positive. You can't just go all negative.
A lot of people felt uncomfortable about the call, he said. Throughout American history, when white men organized, it was often with pointy hats on. They can't even have their gay little Zoom call where they circle jerk about hating themselves without their own movement going, yikes! A bunch of white males in one space? Seems kind of like the KKK. Black people.
To be fair, that is awkward. But I find it weird that's where people's mind jumps to. I wouldn't even have thought of that, really. But that's why it's a bit odd just to go, this is a space for white dudes. Why not just all dudes? Save yourself some hassle. Like, jeez.
People can have their little groups and that's fine, but if a bunch of white people get together, well, that's just called breadtube. Never mind. White Dudes for Harris. I mean, she's doing pretty bad with Latinos, too. What's next? Hombres con Harris? Oh. So basically, men are leaving the Democratic Party in droves.
Oh my god, cringe. Killing me.
It's not looking too good for the Democrats. So it wasn't long until everyone's favorite discourse hit Twitter again. If Kamala loses, which is very possible, there needs to be a real discussion about how Democrats speak to and reach young men. If Kamala loses. If she wins, there doesn't have to be discussion. We shouldn't change anything. Clearly, we're doing everything right. To be clear.
Exactly. If the government doesn't lose, they did nothing wrong. This is not just a any party problem, I feel, because Australian government does this too, where they just don't give a frick until it affects them negatively. And that's kind of the whole problem with a lot of Western countries, because, to be fair, some Asian countries too, but I feel like sometimes they approach it a little bit different. They don't try and solve the problem before it arises, they just try and fix it once it's already destroyed everything, you know what I mean? And it's very reactionary, and it is not efficient in my mind. It's kind of like when you go to the doctors. Japan does it, that you do checkups every year, and then you're sick less often. Other countries do it that you should only go when you're absolutely necessary or you're dying, and people get sick more often. And I wonder which one works more.
Clear, I'm not saying we need to worry about women less or change any positions. I'm saying the polling around young men is concerning, and if it turns out to be true, we need to have a discussion about how condescending we are coming off to a huge part of the electorate. To be clear, I'm not saying we have to change anything, I'm just wondering why men aren't voting for us. What? I am gonna regret posting this so hard. And oh boy did he! The replies were insane, to say the least. I must admit, I cringed reading most of this. I feel that one thing you didn't address is the systemic entitlement bestowed upon white men in the US. That sense of entitlement, that privilege they felt for eternity, is eroding. Systemic entitlement they have felt for eternity? They're like 22 years old! The f*** do you mean eternity? Who is this, like, 200-year-old man?
I think they're talking about, like, systematic men or some shit, but I feel like it doesn't help pointing out, it's like, well, you've had all the rights for so long, and other people have just gotten them. It's like, yeah, but does that really help? Only driving in that point and saying, I'm not talking to you because of that, that doesn't freaking help you at all. Like, you can bring that up in a history lesson. That's for history. That is not for understanding why our rights today. Because we could say for entitlement for eternity, but that is some bullsh crap, because the working man didn't have most of his rights until like 100 years ago too. Like, they couldn't vote, unless you owned land, you couldn't do crap. It's the same thing. Classism was the first big hurdle everyone went through together, not just men or women or whatever. And then it became a men versus women thing when women were left behind. But the real problem is always classism above all else. Is just the lower classes getting beaten down, getting their rights taken away for the benefit for the top, the most rich, the most prevalent. And I think a lot of people forget that. They really focus on the last, like, 80 years instead of, like, the bigger picture.
So, young men are snowflakes with hurt fifis because they're not the center of attention anymore. Got it. So, are they poor little snowflakes, boo-hoo, or are they scary fascists that are gonna turn America into the Handmaid's Tale? Because they can't be both. You either care about the future, or you don't. You cannot simultaneously hand-wave away men moving to fascism, but also fearmonger about it. Hi, man here. Maybe men just need to stop being absolute pieces of dog shit. It seems like the easiest thing to do, right? I don't feel alienated or uncomfortable with democratic messaging because I'm not a complete wannabe fascist cheese dick incel loser who thinks he's the good guy. Reddit and its consequences have been a disaster for the male race.
I feel like the thing is, like, a lot of people miss in this with the whole, just don't be an asshole thing. It's like a lot of guys are learning this information in their formative years. And the idea is, like, you have to fill in that you have to, not want to be the asshole, you have to, like, do things that aren't automatically beneficial for yourself but is beneficial for the whole. And realistically, if you want to tell someone that, you have to be the example. A lot of people think if someone calls you an asshole, you can call them an asshole, and that doesn't make you just a big of a dick or whatever. But realistically, you have to set a good example, and telling them their problems don't matter is not doing what you're selling, you know what I mean? You are a hypocrite in that situation, you know what I mean? It's okay if you don't, if I've, like, rambled off here, but I feel like it's just a very hypocritical stance.
They just need to get off their asses, stop playing video games, and get real jobs. First of all, what real jobs? These guys are coming out of college with useless diplomas and there are no jobs. Also, what an out-of-touch boomer-ass take. Get off your ass and stop playing those video games from the generation who watches TV 24/7. I don't want to hear it. Tell them to get therapy. Tell them whatever you told or gave to women in the 1950s. They made this bed, let them sleep alone in it. Or be f***ing better men. Any other group of people and it's, oh, boo-hoo, poor baby. Let me rewire all of society so your feelings aren't hurt. And then with men, it's get therapy. Be better. While there is truth in messaging needs to be better from Democrats as a whole, I reject that telling young men they need to be better is the problem. They are trash in their nature, and if they can't do the work to not be toxic waste of seed, that's on them. Vote for my team, by the way. We may not want to-
The internet being the internet, showing always there's toxic people. No matter where you look. And that's the thing, I feel like what's the word for it? It's like virtue signaling in general isn't a great idea, because the point is that there's bad people everywhere. You just have to try and like make compromises and changes. And going to extremes just get nothing done.
To hear it, but this is what the data reflects. There is a massive loneliness epidemic in this country which is disproportionately affecting men. Instead of calling them incels or mocking them, we should be willing to hear out their concerns. Wow, a surprisingly good tweet in a sea of bullshit. That's nice to see. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming you're a straight white man, so yeah, go do something about it. Why are you-
I would agree with that like loneliness is affecting both genders, as like most stats show, especially with the increase of people are virgins longer and longer, people are waiting to get married longer and longer, or have never had a boyfriend or a girlfriend longer and longer. But yeah, men are hitting it worse, obviously. That it is always good to talk about it, because especially since majority of people are straight, there is a reason two sides aren't coming together on this, and you need to know both sides.
You guys bothering the rest of us with this? I can't figure it out. Because I would like for Democrats to win the election. Why do you care about men suffering? Because I want to win the election. Amazing. This is the issue right here. Start seeing men.
Well, this is exactly everything wrong with politics in general. Every party is like this. The delusion of like that specifically one party doesn't do this is kind of dumb. Politics, especially how it is now, is inherently very selfish, and they just want to get elected most of the time. It is so rare to find someone who actually works hard to make the changes. They're just gonna promise whatever the fuck they can get most of the time.
As people and not numbers in polls. That is step one. You can't even do step one. Anyway, there were thousands of these kind of tweets in response to this guy. You get it. We've seen it all before. If I went through all of them, this video would be 3 hours long. White dudes for Harris wasn't the only strange attempt the Democrats threw out at the last second to get the male vote.
Hey, white dudes. So, I think we're all pretty sick of hearing how much we suck. Every time you go online, it's the same story. We're the problem. And yeah, some white dudes are. Trump and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse.
Are you f***ing kidding me? Years of these people saying men suck and are the problem, and now they're like, hey fellow men, are you sick of being told you suck and are the problem? The audacity. Apparently, Kamala Harris has a
Okay, the thing here, I would say, is just like, some people suck in every part of the world, exactly. You can't say not all white guys don't suck or whatever. I don't think, like, Andrew Tate and people like that are really helping people's cause. I'm not saying some people suck. Like, they definitely don't exactly set the best example. But I personally think political campaigns should not be able to go negative. Like, they should just talk about their own campaign. I don't think they should talk about each other at all. Information should be released about both parties and, you know, just talked about. Actual information, not just smear campaigns. I don't know. It's so scummy. I thought it used to be heavily frowned upon to do, like, smear campaigns in general, but it seems to be all it is at the moment.
Secret weapon to win over male voters.
Kamala Harris is turning to her running mate, Tim Walz, hoping he is the secret weapon who can chip away at Donald Trump's support from men.
Much like how Trump chose Pence to win over the more establishment Republican voters, Kamala seems to have chosen Tim Walz to try and win over the white male vote. And boy, are they trying. Now, I don't hate Tim Walz. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised when they chose him over Josh Shapiro. I like a lot of his policies, like his universal school lunch policy. That's an amazing policy. You'd have to be an insane freak to disagree with that. Or a libertarian. But I repeat myself. And there were a few times where he was speaking where I completely forgot he was running to be Kamala's VP and—
What is the difference between a libertarian and a liberal? I'm confused.
Not president himself. And he actually brought a lot of energy to the Democratic stage for once. So what the f was this? Putting out a bunch of ads of Tim Walz changing the air filter in a car, clumsily shooting a gun, and drawing a political football play-by-play. Trotting out Walz like some kind of minstrel show of a white man, like a man dressing up like a man for Halloween. You don't gotta do all this, bro, I promise you. And they don't shy away about how that's exactly what they are trying to do. Tim Walz is clearly a Midwest man's man, but he's the antidote to toxic MAGA masculinity. Despite his typically masculine resume as a Midwestern football coach and veteran, Walz is utilizing those qualities to push forward a more progressive, compassion-based form of masculinity. Part of being a vice president is understanding that you are just that, someone who is there to aid and support the president. Walz simply being there on the ticket with a woman and taking a back seat to his running mate, Vice President Kamala Harris, is him embracing his leadership role in a positive, masculine way. Football coach and cheerleader, how Tim Walz is defining masculinity. Amy Deal, a sexism researcher and author.
Those other ones are fun. I don't understand I know she's not poking fun at it in general, but like being positively masculine or sensitively masculine are good things. Like, and they aren't wrong that technically having a positive male like influence as her second running mate is good, I guess. We'll continue.
Of the 2023 book Glass Walls, told USA Today that men like Walz who are intentional about rejecting traits and beliefs commonly dubbed as toxic masculinity are the tonic to harmful stigma associated with expectations of men and boys. He shows you can be masculine, but also not threatened by women as equals or women who are in positions of power. In fact, you can be cheerleaders for them. Notice the common theme here: taking a back seat, cheerleading. Like 5 different articles I read specifically use this word cheerleading. Even a few about Kamala Harris's husband, Doug. God knows we need an antidote for all the lousy men in the news, and I think I found one. A lovable goofball who is happy to cheer.
I would say, like, it's good to point out that but it does, like, feel a bit, like, odd, right, to constantly point out that they're doing a good thing by pushing her up or something, but like it is good that they don't feel like they show a good representation, that you don't have to be the biggest cock in the room or whatever you want to call it. But like I would say the cheerleading wording is a bit weird of it, but
lead for his wife, the vice president of the US.
And the wording of the articles that they have to go negative then go positive. Why can't they just be positive first? Why do they have to go like, unlike all these toxic mother truckers, these guys are good? Why can't they just like, yeah, look how helpful they are, what a lovely like VP, yeah. Like,
thank God for Doug Emhoff. Successful guys can support their wives and be respected. You don't have to be the quarterback to play the game at an elite level. Emhoff and his breed of dudes who are giving it their best shot may never be as come hither to lost young men as the militant Andrew Tate models of manhood, but they are out there, and, not unlike good husbands, will appear when they are needed. From the outside looking in, the right promises young men a return to the good times of the glorious past. You know, the one your grandfather had. The Coca-Cola ad rose-tinted version of the past. Back when you can afford a house and support a family on one income.
So lies, because I'm gonna be real with everyone, this always gets brought up by Americans, but that was the middle class. There was tons of poor people still in this period. A lot of people still work. There's documentaries about the fact that most people under middle class, their wives still worked part-time or did at-home work or worked in laundromats and stuff like that. This is just kind of like a propaganda of, this is how good it used to be. Yeah, for not majority of the population, okay? There was probably more that were allowed than now, but even in America and stuff, there was a lot of poor people. This was like straight after the Great Depression and stuff. Like, and just before this was some of the greatest famine there. So it just like was a small period of time where middle class grew substantially, but there was still a lot of poor people there.
While the left, which historically, in my opinion, had the policies to make that happen, are instead trying to sell men a vision of the future. And well, the future is female. A future where—
Wait, they have the stuff to sell that policy? Why particularly do you want a policy where women are housewives? Like, and ideally, you should be able to stay at home to raise your family if you want to, but either partner should be able to do that. I didn't really get the jab at that point of like, specifically, why do you want to return to the 1950s? It was a very odd time, realistically. And yeah, if you watch a lot of stuff about it, it was like, it was an okay time. There was the biggest part of it that was good was the flush of the economy, which just meant there was a lot more money going around, which is always nice. But, like, the policies towards men and women weren't particularly fantastic.
You're no longer playing the game, men. You're on the sidelines being a cheerleader. Doesn't that just sound so exciting? Like, what the hell is going on inside these DNC consultant meetings? I really gotta know. Does anyone have any ideas on how to appeal to—
Okay, I understand appealing, but I think the oxymoron of the fact of trying to preach to every man that they can be an alpha male and be on top is that it's selling snake oil. You can't, because it's literally impossible. You have to take a second to either your boss or if your wife earns more or someone in your life. You have to be second. No one can be on top alpha male, and selling it, I feel like, to every man that, yeah, and you could be the head of your household and everything's going to turn out fantastic, I'll solve all your problems, is setting them up for even more disappointment, because they are just grasping onto some sort of idea that can't actually be obtained. And I feel like that's the problem here, is like a lot of people online are just trying to sell something that isn't healthy to obtain or that you can realistically obtain.
To young men, and please, for the love of God, do not say we have to offer them anything or change in any way.
I got it.
What?
Camo hats.
We did that.
Vasectomy bus.
We did that.
Have you perhaps tried nagging them?
Yes, we've been doing
the vasectomy bus. That's on.
Say, you know that whole male loneliness epidemic thing? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Oh yeah.
A really nice place. Have you been here before?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite spots. I bring everybody here.
I said not go on a lot of dates, but...
Hey men, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, women won't fuck you. Brilliant. Young men should know that
well, statistically, there's more women on the website. So if you want to get fucked by guys, go to the I'm kidding. But yeah, that is a weird ad, I would say, mainly because I don't get the thing with voting. It's very more private in Australia. I don't get why everyone makes it everyone else's business, realistically. Why do you shouldn't tell people usually how you vote. But I don't know. This is like something that's like really worn on your sleeves in America, and it's like something you don't usually mention.
If you vote for Trump, you're basically never going to get laid. I mean, is it incorrect? Don't think so. Trump gives girls the ick. Vote Harris, get laid. They are not beating the pretending to be progressive to get laid allegations with this one. Literally just endorsing woke fishing. When men pretend to be more progressive on dating apps to get laid. Do not do this, by the way. Be open and honest about your opinions. And no, you cannot fix them. Also, pretty weird.
Yeah, I would say that's a terrible idea. And I have met a lot of people who pretend to be way more progressive than they are. But I've met a lot of people that will balls to the wall be like, yeah, I don't think you should have any rights, bro. It's like, why would I talk to you? It's like, why would I talk to you right now, bro? You just hate everything about me. It's just like, yeah, I do find it funny because it doesn't last long. It's gonna come out that you don't believe those things.
Weird and like low-key sexist to imply like women are some prize for voting the correct way. Hey, and if all else fails, go after the Gooner vote.
Oh! Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
Okay, funny. But that's accurate. Because there is like, isn't there like some state that has P-Hub banned or something? But yeah, like, that's not really unknown either, that like a lot of Republicans wants to censor / ban porn, which I always find hilarious. But like, I thought that was like a well-known thing, but I don't know. I see like a lot of like mixing, especially with the gaming community at the moment, that like the American right or something is anti-censorship, which historically isn't true. I personally just think like every party wants to censor it their way or the highway, but that's hilarious. They actually went in straight to the goon.
I'm sorry. I love this ad. The one time they speak to men directly, and it's, Hey men, the Republicans are gonna take away one of the only vices you use to numb the pain. So vote for us. Bleak. Just the absolute
numb the pain. Or they're just horny. Why does everything have to be? I bet it's because they're depressed. Some people are just horny, you know.
State of the world right now. Also, was that Germa? Believe it or not, this wasn't the worst of it.
I'm a man.
The worst? I honestly thought that was very, like, direct to something that could happen. Like, very direct. You like porn, bro? It's at risk. It's direct. You know?
Man. I'm a man, and I'm man enough. I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon. Neat. Man enough to cook my steak rare. You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast. I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
When I first saw this, I thought it was a parody
Cringe. Oh my god, that is so cringe though.
By Republicans to make fun of how hard the Democratic Party is trying to pander to men to get their vote. But alas.
I love women. I love women who support their families. Women who decide not to have families. Women who take charge. And I'm man enough to help them win.
Everything from them directed towards men has to have like this tone of irony or self-deprecation. They can't even do it sincerely. But apparently white men aren't the only demographic Kamala is struggling with.
This is the Democratic margin among black men under the age of 45 in presidential elections. You go back to November of 2012, what do you see? You see Obama by 81. Clinton only won him by 63. Then we're all the way down to Biden last time around by 53. A tremendous drop already. And then you take a look at the average of the most recent polls, and Kamala Harris is up by only 41 points.
Democrats deployed their ultimate weapon, Barack Obama. At a campaign stump for Harris on Thursday in Pittsburgh, Obama said that despite Harris raising upward of $1 billion, we have yet to see the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. That lag in energy, he added, appears, quote, to be more pronounced with the brothers. You're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that, he said, because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman for president, and you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. Once again, their only tactic seems to be getting in a man's face and going, tisk tisk bad boy. Like a dog that just peed on the carpet. It's not 20.
I would say, if you look at the internet, to be fair, that's a bit hard because a lot of foreigners get involved in this when they're not even American. But some people really just don't like her because she's a woman. But I think part of the problem, from what I can understand, is like a lot of Americans didn't know really who she was or what she was for until she swapped out for like Biden. And she has a short amount of time to explain who she is other than a woman, and that's working really negatively against her, so.
2014 anymore, Barack. Nobody cares about sexism, motherfucker. We can't afford groceries. What's crazy is, as far as I know, Kamala herself—
God, I wish. God, I wish. I swear everything fucking on the internet at the moment is like sexism against men, sexism against women. And you just want to say, shut up! No one cares! Stop fighting!
Has never played the woman card. She has never played the sexism card. In fact, she actively pushes against it.
You've been reluctant to lean into, to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy on the campaign trail. Why is that?
Well, I'm clearly a woman. I don't need to point that out to anyone. The point that most people really care about is, can you do the job? And do you have a plan to actually focus on them?
I was proud. It's like they finally—
Before she says something, I would have to agree with this, that I think it was the right move here. And even if some people have a problem with it, I think it's better to ignore it than point it out and yell at it and just stick to like making a big impact. And that's my point from before, is that her biggest problem is she's trying to tell everyone in like 6 months or so of who she is, what she's doing, and how she's actually, you know, good for the job.
Learned from Hillary Clinton's failure, but that didn't stop the media or Barack Obama from doing it for her. Thanks, Obama. For all the Zoomers, thanks, Obama was a meme in like 2008. Yeah, it was funny back then. That would have slapped.
Thanks, Shoe. I had no idea, actually. While I was in my chat the other day, and I was like, where?
Writing this video, Kamala and Gretchen Whitmer were getting ready to film a video at a bar together when Kamala was apparently caught on hot mic saying this.
Yeah. Oh, we have microphones in here. Listening to everything. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Well,
You'll
now
bleep
you tell
my
us.
F words.
We just told all the family secrets. Shit.
I would have to say it doesn't take a rocket scientist to determine she would need extra work with men, especially seeing who she's versing, but like especially seeing like women is more of an obvious that she would have a lot of women on her side, etc. So yeah, I don't think that's groundbreaking, but it is funny that they just caught her saying it.
We need to move ground with men, so what we're gonna do is pretend to drink beer at a bar. Men like beer, right?
Cheers.
Just talk about policy. Just be yourself. Just listen to men and what they want. Kamala, all you gotta do is talk. Actually, no, now that I think about it, that might make it worse. Put Tim Walz out there, okay? Let Tim Walz do the talking. Don't dress him up as a man. You wanna know how to speak to men? Go to where they are. A good place to speak to young men is the Joe Rogan podcast, which Kamala hinted at going on, but then that never happened, and instead Trump went on, and that episode hit like 20 million views in a day. But like, can you blame her? Joe Rogan is just one of the most popular podcasts in the world with a majority young male audience.
Is it Joe Rogan, the crazy guy who wanted to that said frogs were going gay, or is that someone else? I saw some memes going around with him. I don't know. I feel like it could be a double-edged sword, and that's why you have to really like decide who you're going on and the benefits and negatives. Because yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about his podcast to say.
I hate it here. Every time this topic comes up, so does the topic of like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, internet algorithms, Gamergate, whatever.
There is a massive amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, everything that they see is right-wing sentiment being expressed by individuals that they find charismatic.
And you know why this is? It's the easiest to grift in. It's also more extreme. So, like, you get grifters on every side too, but, like, I feel like, especially with entertainment, it is so easy to grift into that side, and then you got a really big audience if you just agree with everything they're saying. If you, especially like in gaming and anime and other stuff like that, you may be like, oh, what? It's like, are you trying to say they're gullible? I'm not saying that specifically. I'm just saying they have more outlined direct standards of what they think. And so it's so much easier just to go, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. And go hard into it compared to like other areas where there's a lot of like nuance and crap and not set rules where you can just scuff yourself up. So I would say like it's just podcast bros wet dream pretty much, where they can just like, yeah bro, believe in me, don't you hate women, don't you hate whatever else, I have all the answers for you, I understand you, and they find it so much easier to weasel their way in.
But you can only blame internet algorithms for so much for so long. This automatic assumption that any dissent from—
That's part of it too. Negativity sells, and a lot of the points that people push in those right-wing gaming or whatever it's a very negative stances, and so the internet pushes it too. So maybe that's part of it too.
Liberal mainstream thought could only be caused by manipulation or brainwashing from podcasters is honestly a cope, in my opinion, and just an easy excuse for failing to reach anyone beyond your own subreddit. As if there's—
I wouldn't say it's complete cope, because as they've done, and it's the reasons why Andrew Tate ended up getting banned on TikTok and stuff like that, it is so quick for that information to be pushed towards young men. It's crazy. Like, you're so close to it every single time. Like, I made an account for, like, the React, and I said I was a dude because I was making, stuff, and I always react with it. As you know, from the Gunnar homepage, like, saga, everything I get suggested when my algorithm thinks I'm a guy watching React stuff with you guys, it's always horny, or don't you hate women, guys? Or something fucking like that. And everyone's like, what the fuck is your page? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that the internet tries to push at guys. It's like, be horny or be angry. And of course that's gonna wear you down and make you either angrier or sadder or something, you know?
all wasn't the result of like a stagnant neoliberal corpo hell world that created a vacuum that was just waiting to be filled with any kind of populism. The crazy thing is, the Democratic Party did have a candidate who successfully spoke to the demographic that they are currently trying so hard to reach. His name was Bernie Sanders. And every time he did speak to that demographic, or say he was concerned that the Democratic Party didn't do enough to speak to that demographic, he was called a sexist, a racist, he was backstabbed multiple times, and cheated out of winning the Democratic primaries.
Because no one likes someone reasonable unfair. I've talked on this about stream a couple times. Is that the most reasonable candidates usually get kicked out because they're not memorable, they're not extreme enough, they don't care about certain demographics enough, they end up not winning, and it sucks that the most reasonable people for these jobs don't win because they're not out there enough to get noticed or to get enough vote in every demographic because they're just a midliner. No one likes fence sitters. I know, I am one.
Fans were called Bernie bros and constantly berated as sexists and misogynists. His campaign was too white and too male, and this apparently was a top priority to remedy in future campaigns. We were told he was just like Trump and, quote, appeal to angry white men. Well, who's trying to appeal to angry white men now, bitch? It's almost like Bernie's hyper-focus on working class issues, bread and butter issues, and populism was naturally attractive to men. No football or beer required. I miss him. And you know what? Maybe this shift with young men has less to do with who's holding the football and more of what happens when the DNC spends all their time and energy trashing the little bit of populism in their movement. And if you ask me, handing conservatives a monopoly on anti-establishment rhetoric on a silver platter was probably their first mistake. They kind of gave up on that bread and butter New Deal stuff for identity politics, and if you deny this, you are either lying or coping. The physical manifestation of the left has gone from the vision of the blue-collar union worker to a nagging, scolding fat woman with blue hair, barging into everyone's spaces and culturally colonizing them. Change this, change that, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's just incredible for me to witness years of anti-male rhetoric finally come back to bite the left and Democrats in the ass. Watch.
But doesn't the right have the exact same problem? Their anti-women rhetoric is exactly the same, with the same stereotype of the angry Democrat woman kind of thing. It's like, it's the same problem of no one can see eye to eye because they're so against themselves. And yeah, it's funny that you warn that things are too extreme and it's just gonna not make anything any better, and then it bites them in the ass and then they start to care. Because I probably saw this 5+ years ago that this was kind of coming, that people just kind of fed up with the over censoring, the over nagging, the over political correctness. But you hoped it would settle down in a normal way, not in an extreme way. But yeah, it's interesting, but I don't think I feel like it's not exactly new that they're both on extremes.
Watching these chickens come home to roost has just been both incredibly depressing and deliciously vindicating to me in a sick way, and I'm not sure if I should lend out a helping hand or Mufasa them off this cliff. Some Democrats are nervous the party was too late to realize the problem. These Democrats worry that the party has focused too much on courting women voters, LGBTQ voters, and culturally progressive voters, alienating too many men in the process. There's a recognition that we're losing men, and the things we're doing around men haven't been working. I think a lot of it is a reaction to social progressivism done the wrong way, says David Hogg. Young men, he says, feel like progressives look down on them for saying the wrong thing, even when it's a mistake. That discomfort is enough to drive them away from the Democratic Party, even if they don't necessarily agree with Republicans.
Yeah, I 100% agree with this, because I feel like a lot of people that are pushed more right, air quotes, I'd say, not progressive, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's not because they 100% agree with them most of the time, it's just because they don't 100% agree with the left, so they assume they must be right or something. And yeah, I would say that's the thing. I would say that activism becoming so toxic online is probably one of the biggest problems here, because activism used to be a bit more like passive resistance, and now it's just screaming and getting nothing done. I swear to God, it's so annoying.
They would rather be around someone they don't agree with who doesn't judge them. than somebody they do agree with who judges them constantly. Men aren't moving right because they are choosing fascism, they are moving right because the left made them the villains in their anime fanfiction. It's not that they all like Trump, it's that they all hate you, and no amount of camo hats is going to fix that. But do not get it twisted, I do not in any way, shape, or form believe the GOP is going to help men. I don't think they're gonna help anyone. Except maybe Israel. Do I think all of the left is some hyper woke fat lady wagging her finger in men's faces like no fun allowed? No. If I did, I wouldn't call myself left-wing. I'm not a Democrat, I'm a registered independent. But the Democratic Party is historically better on policy, and despite their messaging, even when it comes to helping men. Healthcare, higher wages, paid family leave, labor protection, social security, things Republicans have always fought against. And I think that's why this is extra frustrating to me. I don't say this with any love for the Republican Party. In fact, if anything, I say it with love for the Democratic Party. I fucking hate them, but deep down, I wish they could be better.
It's kind of like a disappointed mom. Like, I don't hate you, but I don't like you very much. Like, it's, and I understand this because, like, Australia has a similar problem with the two-party system, and sometimes you just vote for who's the least asshole, because, like, we literally just, it's not really, they're trying to make it here, like, men versus women, but it's more like a poor versus rich, you have to think about it, then, because you have to look about what's good for your average person, because most people are the average person, but a lot of parties don't, and that's kind of the thing there.
Doing this for your own good. Shh. Go sleep, shh. Go sleep, I love you, go sleep, shh. I just hope that whether Kamala wins or loses, the party can take a step back and evaluate what they're doing wrong. Because I don't think the Democratic Party should be the party for the gays and women. I think the Democratic Party should be the party for everyone, including angry white men. So in your opinion, what could the Democratic Party do to win back young men? Can they do anything? Are they fucked? To me, it might take decades of work to fix the culture, the rot that infests the progressive ideology. It is going to take a lot of work to fix, but I think it's worth it, not just for the Democratic Party's sake, but just for society's sake. If you like this video, please consider donating to my Patreon, link down below. It really helps the channel out, and I appreciate it so much. Also, thank you for 2 million subscribers, that's insane. And I will see you guys with a new video soon. Bye!
I do think they, like, in general, progressive parties need to, like, go back into progressivism, but, like, we don't have that here. Our Labour Party is supposed to be for the working man, that's, like, their motto, and that's our left, but, I say our, but I don't really register with any party, but, you know, you always vote for the less trash, but I would say, like, the thing is, I don't think progressivism is going anywhere, mainly because the alternative is kind of trash for most, like 50% at least of the population, so most aren't gonna go with it. But like, I definitely agree that alienating half of your like population is dumb, no matter what. It's so dumb. It's like, even if they're only thinking selfishly for themselves, that's so stupid to alienate half your voters. They need to find more of a positive way to spin things. But the problem is everything has to be negative now. Everything has to be angry. And if you're not getting views. And it's so frustrating. I feel like a big problem is people just don't want to see positivity. They don't want to see reasonable people. They want to see a dancing monkey who says the most extreme shit possible and point out a villain for them to hate, because that's the way. And then that was like, it's not your fault, or my fault, the government, that you're having a hard time. It's this imaginary villain giving you a hard time, and I'm gonna fix that for you. But they never do, and it's incredibly annoying. I'm not gonna say I know a lot about, especially American politics, but I guess I'm determining it more from the men versus women that seems to be popping up all over the frickin' internet, and it's getting so annoying. But, my delinquents, if you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this video? What do you think about Shoe's points on this? And what do you think is the problem? I saw from Shoe's replies, not many people actually stuck to, like, how to fix it, but I'm happy to hear everyone's thought. I'll catch you next time, my delinquents.